The Yellow Emperor's Classic of Internal Medicine, translated by Ilza Veith. This first paperback edition was printed in 1972. Book 1. Treatise on the Natural Truth in Ancient Times. In ancient times, when the Yellow Emperor was born, he was endowed with divine talents. While yet in early infancy, he could speak. While still very young, he was quick of apprehension and penetrating. When he was grown up, he was sincere and comprehending. When he became perfect, he ascended to heaven. The Yellow Emperor once addressed Tian Shi, the divinely inspired teacher. I have heard that in ancient times the people lived, through the years, to be over 100 years, and yet they remained active and did not become decrepit in their activities. But nowadays people reach only half of that age and yet become decrepit and failing. Is it because the world changes from generation to generation? Or is it that mankind is becoming negligent of the laws of nature? Chi Po answered, in ancient times, those people who understood Tao, the way of self-cultivation, patterned themselves upon the yin and the yang, the two principles in nature, and they lived in harmony with the arts of divination. There was temperance in eating and drinking. Their hours of rising and retiring were regular and not disorderly and wild. By these means the ancients kept their bodies united with their souls, so as to fulfill their allotted span completely, measuring unto 100 years before they passed away. Nowadays people are not like this. They use wine as beverage, and they adopt recklessness as usual behavior. They enter the chamber of love in an intoxicated condition. Their passions exhaust their vital forces. Their cravings dissipate their true essence. They do not know how to find contentment within themselves. They are not skilled in the control of their spirits. They devote all of their attention to the amusement of their minds, thus cutting themselves off from the joys of long life. Their rising and retiring is without regularity. For these reasons they reach only one half of the 100 years, and then they degenerate. In the most ancient times the teachings of the sages were followed by those beneath them. They said that weakness and noxious influences and injurious winds should be avoided at specific times. They, the sages, were tranquilly content in nothingness, and the true vital force accompanied them always. Their vital original spirit was preserved within. Thus, how could illness come to them? They exercised restraint of their wills and reduced their desires. Their hearts were at peace and without any fear. Their bodies toiled and yet did not become weary. Their spirit followed in harmony and obedience. Everything was satisfactory to their wishes, and they could achieve whatever they wished. Any kind of food was beautiful to them, and any kind of clothing was satisfactory. They felt happy under any condition. To them it did not matter whether a man held a high or a low position in life. These men can be called pure at heart. No kind of desire can tempt the eyes of those pure people, and their mind cannot be misled by excessiveness and evil. In such a society, no matter whether men are wise or foolish, virtuous or bad, they are without fear of anything. They are in harmony with Tao, the right way. Thus they could live more than 100 years and remain active without becoming decrepit, because their virtue was perfect and never imperiled. The emperor asked, when people grow old, then they cannot give birth to children. Is it because they have exhausted their strength in depravity, or is it because of natural fate? Chi Po answered, when a girl is 7 years of age, the emanations of the kidneys become abundant. She begins to change her teeth and her hair grows longer. When she reaches her 14th year, she begins to menstruate and is able to become pregnant, and the movement in the great thoroughfare pulse is strong. Menstruation comes at regular times. Thus, the girl is able to give birth to a child. When the girl reaches the age of 21 years, the emanations of the kidneys are regular, the last tooth has come out, and she is fully grown. When the woman reaches the age of 28, her muscles and bones are strong, her hair has reached its full length, and her body is flourishing and fertile. When the woman reaches the age of 35, the pulse indicating the region of the sunlight deteriorates, her face begins to wrinkle, and her hair begins to fall. When she reaches the age of 42, the pulse of the three regions of yang deteriorates in the upper part of the body, her entire face is wrinkled, and her hair begins to turn white. When she reaches the age of 49, she can no longer become pregnant, and the circulation of the great thoroughfare pulse is decreased. Her menstruation is exhausted, and the gates of menstruation are no longer open. Her body deteriorates, and she is no longer able to bear children. When a boy is 8 years old, the emanations of his testes, kidneys, are fully developed. His hair grows longer, and he begins to change his teeth. When he is 16 years of age, the emanations of his testicles become abundant, and he begins to secrete semen. He has an abundance of semen which he seeks to dispel, and if at this point the male and the female element unite in harmony, a child can be conceived. At the age of 24, the emanations of his testicles are regular, his muscles and bones are firm and strong, the last tooth has grown, and he has reached his full height. At 32, his muscles and bones are flourishing, his flesh is healthy, and he is able-bodied and fertile. At the age of 40, the emanations of his testicles become smaller. He begins to lose his hair, and his teeth begin to decay. At 48, his masculine vigor is reduced or exhausted. Wrinkles appear on his face, and the hair on his temples turns white. At 56, the force of his liver deteriorates. His muscles can no longer function properly. His secretion of semen is exhausted. His vitality diminishes. His testicles, kidneys, deteriorate, and his physical strength reaches its end. At 64, he loses his teeth and his hair. Man's kidneys rule over the water which receives and stores the secretion of the 5 viscera and of the 6 bowels. When the 5 viscera are filled abundantly, they are able to dispel secretion. But when at this age the 5 viscera are dry, the muscles and bones decay, the generative secretions are exhausted, and therefore his hair at the temples turns white, his body grows heavy, his posture is no longer straight, and he is unable to produce offspring. The emperor asked, "But there are men who, though already old in years, produce offspring. How is this possible?" Chi-Po answered, "Those are men whose natural limit of age is higher. The vigor of their pulse remains active, and there is a surplus of secretion in their testicles, kidneys. Yet, if they have children, their sons will not exceed their 64th year, and their daughters will not exceed their 49th year, because at that time the essence of heaven and earth will be exhausted." The emperor asked, "Those who follow Tao the right way, and thus reach the age of about 100 years, can they beget children?" Chi-Po answered, "Those who follow Tao the right way can escape old age and keep their body in perfect condition. Although they are old in years, they are still able to produce offspring." Wang Ti said, "I have heard that in ancient times there were the so-called spiritual men. They mastered the universe and controlled yin and yang, the 2 principles in nature. They breathed the essence of life. They were independent in preserving their spirit, and their muscles and flesh remained unchanged. Therefore they could enjoy a long life, just as there is no end for heaven and earth. All this way the result of their life in accordance with Tao, the right way. All this was the result of their life in accordance with Tao, the right way. In medieval times there existed the sapients. Their virtue was preserved, and they unfailingly upheld Tao, the right way. They lived in accord with yin and yang, and in harmony with the 4 seasons. They departed from this world and retired from mundane affairs. They saved their energies and preserved their spirits completely. They roamed and traveled all over the universe, and could see and hear beyond the 8 distant places. By all these means they increased their life and strengthened it, and at last they attained the position of the spiritual man. They were, they were succeeded by the sages. The sages attained harmony with heaven and earth, and followed closely the laws of the eight winds. They were able to adjust their desires to worldly affairs, and within their hearts there was neither hatred nor anger. They did not wish to separate their activities from the world. They could be indifferent to custom. They did not overexert their bodies at physical labor, and they did not overexert their minds by strenuous meditation. They were not concerned about anything. They regarded inner happiness and peace as fundamental, and contentment as highest achievement. Their bodies could never be harmed, and their mental faculties never be dissipated. Thus they could reach the age of 100 years or more. They were succeeded by the men of excellent virtue, who followed the rules of the universe and emulated the sun and the moon, and they also discovered the arrangement of the stars. They could foresee the workings of yin and yang and obey them, and they could distinguish the four seasons. They followed the ancient times and tried to maintain their harmony with Tao. In doing so, they increased their age toward a long life. 2. Great treatise on the harmony of the atmosphere of the four seasons with the human spirit. The 3 months of spring are called the period of the beginning and development of life. The breaths of heaven and earth are prepared to give birth, thus everything is developing and flourishing. After a night of sleep, people should get up early in the morning. They should walk briskly around the yard. They should loosen their hair and slow down their movements body. By these means they can fulfill their wish to live healthfully. During this period, one's body should be encouraged to live and not be killed. One should give to it freely and not take away from it. One should reward it and not punish it. All this is in harmony with the breath of spring, and all this is the method for the protection of one's life. Those who disobey the laws of spring will be punished with an injury of the liver. For them, the following summer will bring chills and bad changes. Thus they will have little to support their development in summer. The 3 months of summer are called the period of luxurious growth. The breaths of heaven and earth intermingle and are beneficial. Everything is in bloom and begins to bear fruit. After a night of sleep, people should get up early in the morning. They should not weary during daytime, and they should not allow their minds to become angry. They should enable the best parts of their body and spirit to develop. They should enable their breath to communicate with the outside world. And they should act as though they loved everything outside. All this is in harmony with the atmosphere of summer, and all this is the method for the protection of one's development. Those who disobey the laws of summer will be punished with an injury of the heart. For them, fall will bring intermittent fevers. Thus they will have little to support them for harvest in fall, and hence, at winter solstice, they will suffer from grave disease. The 3 months of fall are called the period of tranquility of one's conduct. The atmosphere of heaven is quick, and the atmosphere of the earth is clear. People should retire early at night and rise early in the morning. With the crowing of the rooster, they should have their minds at peace in order to lessen the punishment of fall. Soul and spirit should be gathered together in order to make the breath of fall tranquil. And to keep their lungs pure, they should not give vent to their desires. All this is in harmony with the atmosphere of fall, and all this is the method for the protection of one's harvest. Those who disobey the laws of fall will be punished with an injury of the lungs. For them, winter will bring indigestion and diarrhea. Thus, they will have little to support their storing of winter. The 3 months of winter are called the period of closing and storing. Water freezes and the earth cracks open. One should not disturb one's yang. People should retire early at night and rise late in the morning, and they should wait for the rising of the sun. They should suppress and conceal their wishes as though they had no internal purpose, as though they had been fulfilled. People should try to escape the cold, and they should seek warmth. They should not perspire upon the skin. They should let themselves be deprived of They should let themselves be deprived of breath of the cold. All this is in harmony with the atmosphere of winter, and all this is the method for the protection of one's storing. Those who disobey the laws of winter will suffer an injury of the kidneys, testicles. For them, spring will bring impotence, and they will produce little. The breath of heaven is pure and light. Heaven always maintains its original virtue, thus it never comes to fall. If heaven opened up completely, then sun and moon would never be bright. Evil would come during this period of emptiness. The atmosphere of yang would close up and the earth would lose its brightness. Clouds and fog would be unable to undergo changes, and as a consequence, white dew would not fall, and the circulation of the natural elements would not communicate with the life of everything in creation. This situation would be called not bestowing, and as a consequence of not bestowing, all vegetation would perish. Furthermore, the noxious air would not disappear, wind and rain would not be harmonious, white dew would not fall, so that vegetation would never again flourish. There would always be violent winds and sudden squalls of rain, and heaven and earth and the four seasons would be unable to protect each other. They would lose Tao and would soon be destroyed. The sages followed the laws of nature, and therefore their bodies were free from strange diseases. They did not lose anything which they had received by nature, and their spirit of life was never exhausted. Those who do not conform with the breath of spring will not bring to life the region of the lesser yang. The atmosphere of their liver will change their constitution. Those who do not conform with the atmosphere of summer will not develop their greater yang. The atmosphere of their heart will become empty. Those who do not conform with the atmosphere of fall will not harvest their greater yin. The atmosphere of their lungs will be blocked from the lower burning space. Those who do not conform with the atmosphere of winter will not store their lesser yin. The atmosphere of the testes, kidneys, will be isolated and decreased. Thus, the interaction of the four seasons and the interaction of yin and yang, the two principles in nature, is the foundation of everything in creation. Hence, the sages conceived and developed their yang in spring and summer, and conceived and developed their yin in fall and winter, in order to follow the rule of rules, and thus the sages, together with everything in creation, maintain themselves at the gate of life and development. Those who rebel against the basic rules of the universe sever their own roots and ruin their true selves. Yin and yang, the two principles in nature, and the four seasons are the beginning and the end of everything, and they are also the cause of life and death. Those who disobey the laws of the universe will give rise to calamities and visitations, while those who follow the laws of the universe remain free from dangerous illness, for they are the ones who have obtained Tao the right way. Tao was practiced by the sages and admired by the ignorant people. Obedience to the laws of yin and yang means life. Disobedience means death. The obedient ones will rule, while the rebels will be in disorder and confusion. Anything contrary to harmony with nature is disobedience and means rebellion to nature. Hence the sages did not treat those who were already ill. They instructed those who were not yet ill. They did not want to rule those who were already rebellious. They guided those who were not yet rebellious. This is the meaning of the entire preceding discussion. To administer medicines to diseases which have already developed and to suppress revolts which have already developed is comparable to the behavior of those persons who begin to dig a well after they have become thirsty, and of those who begin to cast weapons after they have already engaged in battle. Would these actions not be too late? Number 3. Treatise on the communication of the force of life with heaven. The Yellow Emperor said, "From earliest times the communication with heaven has been the very foundation of life. This foundation exists between yin and yang, and between heaven and earth, and within the 6 points. The heavenly breath prevails in the 9 divisions, in the 9 orifices, in the 5 viscera, and in the 12 joints. They are all pervaded by the breath of heaven. Life has the number 5, breath has the number 3. If people act contrary to these factors, then noxious influences will injure mankind. This good conduct is the foundation of long life. Just as the breath of the blue sky is calm, so the will and the heart of those who are pure will be in peace, and the breath of yang will be stable in those who keep themselves in harmony with nature. Even if there are noxious spirits, they cannot cause injury to those who follow the laws of the seasons. Therefore the sages preserved the natural spirit and were in harmony with the breath of heaven, and were thus in direct communication with heaven. Those who fail to preserve this communication will have their 9 orifices closed from the inside, and the development of their muscles and flesh will be obstructed from the outside, and the breath of protection will be lost to them. This then is called to injure one's own body and to destroy one's own force of life. The atmosphere of yang is similar to heaven and to the sun. Those who lose this atmosphere shorten their lives and do not prolong it. The movements of heaven are illuminated by the sun. Yang rises up to protect man's body externally. In times of the cold of winter, one should act as though one were moving around a pivot, and if one behaves, moves, and rests, as though one were startled, then one's spirit and breath of life will be unstable. In the time of the heat of summer, if perspiration is vexatious, irregular, people pant noisily, but when they quiet down, they become loquacious, confused. Then their body resembles burning charcoal, and the sickness can be dispersed only through perspiration. In times of humidity of fall, people feel as though their heads were closely bandaged. The heat of the body is expelled, and consequently the great muscles contract, while the small muscles become slack and elongated. Contraction causes cramps, slackening, and elongation causes paralysis. In times of hot and humid, vapor swelling occurs, and the 4 uniting elements of the body suffer successively and exhaust the atmospheric force of yang. When the force of yang is exhausted, under the pressure of overwork and weariness, then the essence of the body is cut short, the openings of the body are obstructed, and the secretions are retained. This causes sickness in summer and distress. Then the people's eyes are blinded and they cannot see. Their ears are closed and they cannot hear. They feel confused as though they were in a state of complete collapse, and their will weakens continuously. This condition cannot be halted. In the atmosphere of yang, If the atmosphere of yang is exposed to great anger, the force of life of the body is interrupted, and the blood rushes upwards and causes dizziness. When people contract an injury of their muscles, the muscles become lax as though they no longer existed. If people perspire only partially, they contract a partial paralysis. When perspiration becomes visible and meets with humidity, there will be eruptions on the skin in a weakened condition. If one perspires while physically weary, one is susceptible to evil winds which cause eruptions of the skin, and those, if irritated, will develop into sores. The essence of the force of yang protects the spirit. Its gentleness protects the muscles. If the atmosphere of yang cannot open and close freely, the cold air will follow, and the result will be a great deformity, hunchback. The deep pulse brings about ulcers, which are transmitted to the flesh, and the breath of the ducts will become weakened, causing a propensity towards being easily frightened and startled. If the atmosphere of the main ducts is not harmonious with the system of the flesh, it will cause ulcers and swelling. Then the perspiration of the animal spirit is unable to reach out. One's body will be weakened, one's force of life will be melted, the acupuncture spots will be closed, and there arises winds and intermittent fevers. Thus winds is the cause of 100 diseases. When people are quiet and clear, their skin and flesh is closed and protected. Even a heavy storm, afflictions, or poison cannot injure those people who live in accord with the natural order. If a sickness lasts for a long time, there is danger that it might spread. Then the upper and lower parts of the body cannot communicate, and even skillful physicians are then not able to help. If yang accumulates excessively, one will die from the resulting disease. If the force of yang is blocked, the blockage should be dispelled. If one does not drain it thoroughly and guide away the rough matter, there will be destruction. The force of yang should move outwards every day. At dawn, the breath of man comes to life. At midday, the breath of yang is most abundant. When the sun moves towards the west, yang declines. The force of yang becomes insubstantial, and the door of the breath is then closed. For this reason, the atmosphere of yang should be protected against bad influences, so they cannot give trouble to the muscles and the flesh, and one should not expose them to the dew and mist of the evening. If one acts contrary to these three divisions of time, one's body will be exhausted and weakened. Chi Po said, Yin stores up essence and prepares it to be used. Yang serves as protector against external danger and must therefore be strong. If yin is not equal to yang, then the pulse becomes weak and sickly and causes madness. If yang is not equal to yin, then the breaths which are contained in the five viscera will conflict with each other, and the circulation ceases within the 9 orifices. For this reason, the sages caused yin and yang to be in harmony. They caused their muscles and pulses to be in harmony. They made their bones and their marrow strong, and they caused their breath and blood to be obedient to the law of nature, so that the internal and external organs are harmonious with each other, and the evil influences can do nothing that brings harm, and the ears and the eyes are quick of hearing and clear of vision, and man's force of life remains in its original state. If the wind enters the body and exhausts man's breath, then his essence will be lost, and the evil influences will injure his liver. If man overeats, his muscles and pulses collapse, and his bowels will be injured, resulting in bleeding piles. If man drinks too much, his force of life becomes obstreperous. Those who indulge in excesses of sexual intercourse injure the force of their kidneys and hurt their loins. The essential principle of yin and yang is to preserve the element of yang and to make it strong. If the elements do not harmonize and unite, then it is as though spring were without autumn, and as though winter were without summer. But if they do harmonize and unite, this harmony is called the system of the sages. Even if one's yang is strong, but if one does not preserve it perfectly, then the atmosphere of yin will be exhausted. If yin is in a state of tranquility and yang is preserved perfectly, then one's spirit is in perfect order. If yin and yang separate, one's essence and vital force will be destroyed. If then the evening dew and the wind touch one, they will cause chills and fever. This is how one is hurt by the wind, and then the evil influences will remain in the body and create a leakage. If one is injured in summer by the heat, then in fall one will contract intermittent fevers. If one is injured in fall through humidity, it will rise to the upper part of the body and cause a cough, and this will change into paralysis, impotence. If one is injured in winter through the extreme cold, he will suffer from the warm disease in spring. The breath of the 4 seasons injures the 5 viscera in various forms. That which is produced by yin originates in the 5 flavors. The 5 organs which regulate the functions of the body are injured by the 5 flavors. Thus, if acidity exceeds the other flavors, then the liver will be caused to produce an excess of saliva, and the force of the spleen will be cut short. If salt exceeds among the flavors, the great bones become weary, the muscles in the flesh become deficient, and the mind becomes despondent. If sweetness exceeds the other flavors, the breath of the heart will be asthmatic and full, the appearance will be black, and the force of the kidneys will be unbalanced. If among the flavors bitterness exceeds the others, then the atmosphere of the spleen becomes dry, and the atmosphere of the stomach becomes dense. If the pungent flavor exceeds the others, the muscles and the pulse become slack, and the spirit will be injured. Therefore, if people pay attention to the 5 flavors and mix them well, their bones will remain straight, their muscles will remain tender and young, their breath and blood will circulate freely, their pores will be fine in texture, and consequently their breath and bones will be filled with the essence of life. If, furthermore, the people carefully follow Tao, as though it were a law, theirs will be a long life. 4. Treatise on the Truth of the Golden Box. Wang Ti asked, "There are 8 winds in heaven, and there are 5 different kinds of winds in the arteries, veins. How can this be explained?" Chi Po answered, "When there is evil which arises from the 8 winds, the evil becomes the wind of the veins and affects the 5 viscera. This evil will cause sickness. The so-called rule of the controls of the 4 seasons is that spring controls long summer controls winter, winter controls summer, summer controls fall, and fall controls spring. This is the so-called control of the 4 seasons. The east wind arises in spring. Its sickness is located in the liver, and there are disturbances in the throat and neck. The south wind arises in summer. Its sickness is located in the heart, and there are disturbances in the chest and ribs. The west wind arises in fall. Its sickness is located in the lungs, and disturbances arise at the shoulders and at the back. The north wind arises in winter. Its sickness is located in the kidneys, and disturbances arise in the loins and thighs. In the center there is the earth. Its sickness is located in the spleen, and disturbances arise in the spine. Thus, sickness resulting from the atmosphere of spring is located in the head. Sickness resulting from the atmosphere of summer is located in the viscera. Sickness resulting from the atmosphere of fall is located in the shoulders and the back. And the sickness resulting from the atmosphere of winter is located in the 4 members of the body. A sickness particular to spring is to bleed at the nose. A sickness particular to the middle part of summer is located within the chest and the ribs. A sickness particular to the long summer is a discharge from the cavities and a cold in the center. A sickness particular to fall is intermittent fever. A sickness particular to winter is paralysis, convulsions. Thus, in winter, people should move in such a way that in spring they will not bleed at the nose. Then people do not get sick in spring at their neck and throat, and they will not be sick in the middle of summer in their chest and ribs, and during the long summer they do not get a discharge from the cavities and a cold in the center. They will not get intermittent fever in the fall, nor will they suffer from paralysis in winter. Food leaks out and perspiration appears. Essence is the foundation of the body. Therefore, if the essence is well retained within the viscera, the warm sickness will not arise in spring. If people do not perspire freely in the heat of summer, they will get intermittent fever in fall. These are the rules of the pulse, and they apply to everybody. It is said that there is yin within the yin, and that there is yang within the yang. Thus, from early dawn until midday, there prevails the yang of heaven, which is the yang within the yang. From midday until twilight, there prevails the yang of heaven, which is the yin within the yang. From the time when night encloses the earth until the first crowing of the cock, there prevails the yin of heaven, which is the yin within the yin. From the cock's crowing until early morning, there prevails the yin of heaven, which is the yang within the yin. Thus mankind should correspond to this system. The yin and yang of man are arranged in the order that on the outside there is yang, and inside there is yin. Yin and yang of the human body are arranged that yang is in back and yin is within the front part. Yin and yang of the 5 viscera and the 6 bowels are arranged that the viscera are yin and the hollow organs are yang. All of the 5 viscera, liver, heart, spleen, lungs, and kidneys are yin, and all of the 5 hollow organs, gallbladder, stomach, lower intestines, bladder, and the 3 burning spaces are all yang. The reason why we must know the rule of the yin within the yin and the rule of the yang within the yang is that the diseases of winter are located in the region of yang, and the diseases of summer in the region of yin. The diseases of spring are located in the region of yin, and the diseases of fall in the region of yang. We must know the location of all these diseases for the purpose of acupuncture. Thus, the back is the region of yang. The yang within the yang is the heart. The back is the region of yang, and the yin within the yang are the lungs. The front is the region of yin, and the yin within the yin are the kidneys. The front is the region of yin, and the yang within the yin is the liver. The front is the region of yin, and the extreme yin is the spleen. All this is so arranged that yin and yang complement each other in front and back, inside and outside, as female and male element, and that they serve and respond to each other in order to conform with the yin and yang of heaven. Huang Ti asked, since the five viscera correspond with the four seasons, does each of the viscera receive some influence? Chi Po replied, yes. Green is the color of the east. It pervades the liver and lays open the eyes and retains the essential substances within the liver. Its sickness is a nervous disease. Its taste is sour. Its kind element is grass and trees, wood. Its animal is the chicken. Its grain is wheat. It conforms to the four seasons and corresponds to the planet Jupiter, the year star. Thus the breath of spring is located in the head. Its sound is Chio. Its number is 8. And thus it becomes known that its diseases are located in the muscles. Its smell is offensive and fetid. Red is the color of the self. It pervades the heart and lays open the ears and retains the essential substances within the heart. Its sickness is located in the five viscera. Its taste is bitter. Its kind element is fire. Its animal are sheep. Its grain is gluttonous, panicled millet. It conforms to the four seasons and corresponds to the planet Mars, and thus it becomes known that its diseases are located in the pulse. Its sound is Chi. Its number is 7, and its smell is scorched. Yellow is the color of the center. It pervades the spleen and lays open the mouth, and retains the essential substances within the spleen. Its sickness is located at the root of the tongue. Its taste is sweet. Its kind element is the earth. Its animal is the ox. Its grain is panicled millet. It conforms to the four seasons, and its star is the planet Saturn, and thus it becomes known that the disease is located within the flesh. Its sound is kung, its number is 5, and its smell is fragrant and sweet. White is the color of the west. It pervades the lungs and lays open the nose, and retains the essential substances within the lungs. Its sickness is located within the back. Its taste is pungent. Its kind element is metal. Its animals are horses. Its grain is rice. It conforms to the four seasons and corresponds to Venus, the evening star, and thus it becomes known that its diseases are located in the skin and the hair. Its sound is shang, its number is 9, and its smell is foul and putrid. Black is the color of the north. It pervades the kidneys and lays open the two lower orifices which belong to yin, and retains the essential substances within the kidneys. Its sickness is located within the cavities. Its taste is salty. Its kind element is water. Its animals are pigs. Its grain is the bean. It conforms to the four seasons and corresponds to the morning star, and thus it becomes known that its disease is located within the bones. Its sound is yut. Its number is 6, and its smell is rotten and evil. Hence the person who is adept in the investigation of the pulse should examine carefully the order of the five viscera and the 6 hollow organs, bowels. In regard to conformity, the opposition. In regard to conformity and opposition, in regard to yin and yang, in regard to outside and inside, and in regard to the female and the male element, and he should keep it in mind and bring it into accord with his superior spirit, not to teach it to the wrong person, and never to tell or act a lie, is called the achievement of Tao.